Hi everyone, I'm Gemma Stafford, professional chef, cookbook author, and your host of Need to Know, the #1 baking entertainment podcast, where we dive into tips, trends, and tasty tidbits that bakers love most. Whether you're a long-time listener or just joining us for the first time, welcome. This week we're doing something a little bit special, a handpicked collection of our favourite moments from past episodes. These are the conversations we couldn't stop talking about, sharing, and replaying. So whether you're in the kitchen, on the go, or just here for some baking joy, this is your chance to relive the best of Need to Know or discover what makes it so beloved. So let's jump right in.
I have a couple of questions for you, Gemma.
Lovely.
From Fatima on Instagram, she asked, I have dairy milk bars to make eggs and they didn't melt. Do you know why?
I do know why. And I'll tell you why they didn't, and then I tell you why you shouldn't. Is that it's a double answer. So for those of you who don't know, do you know what a dairy milk bar is?
Is that just a solid milk chocolate bar?
Yeah, it is, but it's a candy bar. It's not just a bar of milk chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
It's a candy bar. So when you think of like a Hershey's bar, it's just what you get at the candy store, a bar of chocolate that you just eat. Mm-hmm. So it has sugar. It will have, other ingredients there to make it like more appealing to like somebody who likes lighter chocolate, and then make it sweeter and have other additives and stuff like that in there. Those, because of all the extra things added to them, they do not melt well. They are not, a candy bar is not supposed to be melted. Like if you go to get if you go to the shop to make a chocolate cake or whatever, and you need melted chocolate, you don't buy a few bars of Hershey's and melt all of those down. Like it's not going to melt well. It's not pure chocolate. And I will tell you, doing that also, the grade, it's not going to work, number one. Number two is that the grade of chocolate used is pretty low. Mm-hmm. So if you wanted milk chocolate, feel free to go buy a bar of milk chocolate. My recommendation would be Lindt, which I find in Ireland. I find it here. I find it anywhere I go in the world. Lindt chocolate works really well. Get a bar of their milk chocolate. Don't try and melt down a candy bar. It does not work. It is very frustrating. It literally doesn't melt. Mm-hmm. So that's why. And I know this. I'll tell you why I know it. I did it as a child because I didn't know. I was like 7 years of age, and I would melt a candy bar and it wouldn't melt, and it would end up lumpy, and it was just an awful, it was just so frustrating. And now I know why.
Yeah.
So I just say, it's not supposed to be melted and used like that. It's only supposed to be eaten as a candy bar.
Yeah, I think usually if you want to find a bar for melting, you look in the baking aisle.
Yeah, look, exactly. There you go. Mm-hmm. Don't look in the candy aisle, look in the baking. I could have literally have answered that whole question, what you just said.
Well, Okay, I have one more question. This is from Mary B on Facebook. Often when I work with chocolate, it separates and gets very oily. Mm-hmm. How can I avoid this?
We're no stranger to this. Mm-hmm. We buy a certain type of chocolate here that we use for baking. We do we pretty much do mass production when it comes to our baking. So I buy big bars of chocolate, some brands that normally this will only happen with a high cocoa solid percentage. Somewhere, I don't mean super high, I mean around the 72% bittersweet. It can happen. It's probably not going to happen for a milk chocolate. It will more than likely happen for a bittersweet chocolate. It happens with overheating. Mm-hmm. The chocolate, and it happens from over mixing. Mm-hmm. There's probably maybe one or two more of those things in there, but that's the most common that you'll do at home. Mm-hmm. And it separates. The fat separates from the cocoa, and you end up with an oily mess. Mm-hmm. So we always say in all of our chocolate recipes, because Ami writes the recipes, is heat gently in the microwave. I'm no problem at all using the microwave to melt chocolate. I'm all about it gently. Short periods of time in the microwave. Don't let it get too hot. Then when you're mixing, don't go in there with your whisk and beat it afterwards. Carefully mix it, because when you more and more you mix it, the more you see it separate. Also, sometimes, say if you had a recipe and it was ganache. Mm-hmm. So when you add the extra fat into the chocolate when you're making a ganache, the introduction of that fat can make it separate. Mm-hmm. So I would be careful. I would say full disclosure, sometimes we use the Trader Joe's chocolate for our baking. Their bittersweet chocolate bar has a tendency to separate.
It does.
Yeah, it does. And it could be very annoying because it's not cheap and it's just frustrating. But let me tell you, we're going to wrap this all in a lovely bow, and I'm going to tell you how you can actually solve that problem. I did a TikTok video of this. Chocolate separates and you see the oil and the solids completely going different directions. An immersion blender. So like what I use for, like a hand blender, immersion blender. Put that in there, blend it up, and it will come back together perfect.
Is this speaking of just ganache or even just melted chocolate?
Melted chocolate or ganache. Anytime you see a chocolate mix like that separate, like you said, ganache or melted chocolate. Doesn't mean it won't separate again later if you continue to mix it too much, but for that, it will always, immersion blender, few seconds, instantly it comes back together. Actually, I'll share that video in the show notes as well so you can see it.
Well, that's great. That's useful information.
Yeah, really great. And then you don't have to throw it out because unfortunately, when chocolate separates, if you don't bring it back together, you can also bring it back together with a little touch of warm cream. That also works, but the immersion blender is just so much more fun and fascinating. And that works.
Our first question is on the same idea of budget baking, and it is, are there any specific ingredients that are worth splurging on, even when trying to stick to a budget?
Yes. I would say, so I go back to chocolate because it is one of the most expensive baking ingredients. I would say your chocolate is definitely worth it. And one of my favorites is Lindt. It is, it can be $4 for 3 ounces. I think it's not even a 3.5 ounce bar. I love it. It melts really well. The quality is really good. Ghirardelli is also really good. I will say that I'm kind of, I suppose the word is kind of thrifty, but like, don't be afraid to be thrifty. You know what I mean? Like in like our kind of standard, in our like supermarkets here, we have Ralph's and Albertsons and what's the other one called? Bonds. And they'll often have 2 bars for $6. And even in Walgreens, they will sell like cheaper chocolate. Anytime I see that kind of stuff, I grab it. White chocolate on sale, like white chocolate, that's a good one actually. Lindt makes a really good white chocolate bar. And I would say things like, splurge, use good vanilla, and then also try and get good vanilla on sale. You know what I mean? It can be very expensive. You see bottles for $10, $11 for good quality, and that's not uncommon. You can see stuff for up to $20. I will tell you. So good vanilla really, since I've been working with Rodell, I will tell you that it does make a big difference to have the really good quality. One of my little tips for those of you who are TJ Maxx and Marshalls shoppers is when you're in there looking for random stuff, for something that you didn't know you needed until you see it, go to the food section. Not everything in the aisle is worth buying, but always look for things like extracts, good quality jams. They sell this sort of Whalen's Irish jams and marmalades and chutneys. They sell them at TJ Maxx and they're really amazing from Ireland. They will sell a really high-end vanilla.
Oh, wow.
Vanilla bean paste.
I'd never think to look at for food in those stores.
Just have a look. I know there can be a lot of stuff there that you would not buy. Even nut flours.
Really?
Almond flour, bags of almond flour for way cheaper. Check dates, definitely, because they're a bit notorious for that. But check dates. But like, honestly, just walk down the aisle, have a quick look. Maple syrup. Can be, those kinds of things. Check those out. Maple syrup is a very expensive ingredient. I never talked about that. Maple syrup is a very expensive ingredient. I buy an organic one at Costco in a big kind of a tub because between Shoots and George, who literally would drink maple syrup.
I mean, who wouldn't?
I mean,
I know.
So would I.
It ends up, you go through a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good one. Maple syrup. You don't think about that. Yeah.
Our next question here is one that I really resonate with because I don't know if you guys know this. I don't lean towards traditional birthday cake. For my own birthday, it's not I don't have like a favorite cake. So the question here is, what are some creative desserts I can serve instead of traditional birthday cake?
Oh, I can answer this one. I come from a family, as much as I love making cake, my family doesn't love cake. So I found for Dan, I often do some sort of a birthday pie.
Oh, pie is nice.
It's so good, and it's so good. They're not fancy. Pies are always a little humble and rustic, but they're so delicious. And sometimes we'll try to make it fancy and do like a tarte tatin or something that takes a little bit more effort. And you can do that with apples or peaches when they're in season, which can be really lovely. There are some years where my son has requested just like cookies and ice cream for his birthday. And we've done like ice cream sandwich with cookies, and no kid complains about that. And those are really portable and fun. So you can do, I think it's anything like special and sweet. What's also really kind of cake-like and very special and beautiful, but it's not a cake, is a pavlova. And you can make a gorgeous pavlova that can, be tall and beautiful. You can have multi-layers. Fill it with cream and fruit, and it is, I would say, rivals any beautiful cake that you could make. And so those are some, I think some things that are fresh and light, and where cakes can tend to be sort of sweet and heavy and sometimes a little one note.
Also, I was about to say that, two-dimensional, because you have frosting and you have cake.
Right.
So you kind of only get two things, whereas in a pie, you get the texture of the crust and the filling, and you get like whatever your fruit is, say peaches, get sweet peaches, really lovely when in season. You get a buttery crust, maybe a little bit salty, a little bit sweet. Yeah, I definitely, I only like a particular cake for my birthday. And then after that, like princess cake, like you made me, then after that, I'm kind of like chocolate cake. It's frosting and it's cake.
Right. Or in the other thing would be like sundaes, ice cream sundaes, just different flavors of sundaes. I think, adults, kids, everybody loves that. You can home make all these really fun toppings. You make it really special. You make caramel sauce, chocolate sauce, peanut butter sauce. You can have fruit on it if you like that.
Yeah.
Whipped cream, candy. It's super fun. It's a fun activity. It's a fun birthday party activity.
We are talking all about some fun fruit-inspired recipes from your website. So our first question is in regards to your pineapple chutney recipe on your website, and it's from Denise. She would like to know, would this recipe work with canned crushed pineapple?
Yes, I've made it with canned pineapple. I've also made it with frozen pineapple, I think, and it works really well. I don't know if you got to taste the pineapple chili or pineapple chutney, but it's like with chili. I love to have it. It can be sweet. I love to have it, you can have meats and cheeses, but I love to have it with curry. So for those of you who are looking a little bit like sweet, tropical, like it's really delicious.
Our next question is in reference to your mango butter mochi recipe, and this is from Abdullah. The question is, I was wondering if I can use other fruits along with the mangoes, like pineapple and passion fruit, pureed of course. What are your recommendations in this regard? Also, do you recommend adding zest to the batter?
Kind of going backwards first, for sure, you can definitely add zest to the batter. And I think anytime you're doing any fruit-based dessert, no matter what, add a little lemon or lime zest. It really makes a difference. It makes the fruit pop. And in terms of, if you want to replace the mango puree with another fruit, you definitely can. I would just recommend that you stick to, in the same proportions, I would just recommend that you stick to any fruit that's intensely flavored. Pineapple would be really good. Passion fruit would be good. Even raspberry would be intensely flavorful. I don't know if that would be good or strange. So, try it if you want. I would stay away from like melon, which I think would just disappear. It might be good, or it might, you might want to experiment. I wouldn't necessarily think, or stone fruits, depending on how intense the flavor is, those flavors may or may not be present once you put them into a butter mochi, because it's competing with so many other flavors in the butter mochi itself.
We have some questions here that are all about waffles. So the first question is, Gemma, is there a way of keeping them crispy? When I layer them on top of each other, they become a bit soft from the condensation or steam.
Yes, I can say my trick that I don't do very often, but I do know it works when I used to do catering, is put them flat on a tray and just have your oven warm and keep them in the oven until you're serving everything together. I will tell you though, the best thing to do, and if you're doing for a crowd, this is harder, but the best thing to do is make them and serve them, make them and serve them, make them and serve them. because they're really not made to be hanging to hang around. So that's the best thing. Otherwise, low oven, put them on a tray all flat and keep them warm and a little bit crisp, and then serve them all together.
Absolutely. And that's a great idea. And I would say that now, just add on, if you've just got a few, put them on a wire rack. And they'll,
put them on a wire rack.
And then you can keep them, they won't stay warm. They'll cool down, but they'll stay crispy.
Yeah.
So if you want to keep them warm, keep them in the oven. But if you're making them and you're going to, you're making a few and you're serving them right away, you can do that and they'll stay crispy that way.
All right, we got one more question here, and that is, please help me with the perfect replacement for eggs in buttermilk waffle recipes.
Oh, that's a good one. I'll tell you what I think would work well, flax egg.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a good one. And one that I haven't tested, but I have been reading about and meaning to, is seltzer.
Oh, that's right.
Like club soda, like sparkling water.
Yeah.
That is just like a quarter cup per egg. And it seems to work great for both pancakes and waffles. So that would be something for any one of us to experiment with and will it.
Can it waffle?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Does that mean don't trust anything we say? To be fair, that wasn't.
To be fair, those weren't waffle.
No, that wasn't our idea.
No.
I knew mine wasn't going to work.
And these questions are really exciting. They're actually directly in correlation with some of your recipes. So I'm going to jump right into it here. This is a question from your Ruby Chocolate Truffles. Can you recommend an alternative for freeze-dried raspberries? Marilyn Warren wants to know.
Yes. So for those of you who don't know what those are, they're my Ruby Chocolate Truffles, which was such a big thing a few years ago. And it's a kind of almost a raspberry flavored, like it has notes of like raspberry flavored, like white chocolate. And then I ground up freeze-dried raspberries and I rolled them in the truffle in that. So she's saying that, and they can be hard to find and they're expensive. So another tip is to roll them, just melt some white chocolate and roll them in the white chocolate. And if you wanted to do a little bit, and then just put them, shake off the excess, put them on a plate to set. If you wanted to put a little gold leaf on top or a little bit of like edible glitter to make them like a little bit extra fancy or something, that would be nice. But yeah, or take any of the excess. You could take some excess ruby chocolate and do a drizzle over the tops to show that there was ruby chocolate on the inside. Something like that. Yeah.
I like that. Our next question is in reference to your homemade chocolate bars. And it says, if I would like to make strawberry-filled chocolate, would you suggest just pureeing strawberry and putting it in between the layers of chocolate? From Sure Dagan.
So, if you just puree strawberries, it's going to be super liquidy. And actually, although strawberries themselves can be sweet, when put right up against chocolate, they'll end up tasting a little sour. They won't taste so nice. So what I would do is you could make a quick strawberry jam. We have a recipe on Bigger Bolder Baking for a microwave strawberry jam that's super quick, and it just takes strawberries and sugar, and you can cook it in the microwave. You can also do it stovetop, and that'll make it nice and thick and sweet. And once that's made and fully cooled down, I would use that. The other thing you have to be careful of is even once you make a jam, it's still going to be pretty liquidy. So you, instead of chocolate bars, I might even suggest if you have smaller molds to make sort of more bonbon shape, you can coat the molds in the chocolate and then let that freeze, get hard. Then you pour a little bit of your strawberry filling, not all the way to the top, but a little bit, so that you have a little bit of a lip of chocolate around the edge. Let that get cold, and then you top it with a seal, like a lid of chocolate, and let that seal up. And then you've got this like wonderful, almost liquid center, but it'll be sweet enough to balance the taste of the chocolate, but not too runny.
Yeah, any kind of chocolatier, any kind of chocolates that you buy that have a fruit filling like that, they're always cooked down. If you watch these videos on Instagram, they're cooked down into a paste. They're mixed with sugar. They might be made into a truffle base or a sugar base, like a jammy base, like Ami said. You can never just put in the pureed fruit into the middle of something. It just won't work.
The other thing that you'll run into if you just use pureed fruit is that there's a lot of water content. in pureed fruit. And then if you put melted chocolate right on top of that, you run into the chocolate seizing.
Yeah, it'll just go different directions. It will not, it's not going to work.
Right.
This question comes from Gemma, your how to make homemade peanut butter. And it's, what if I used unroasted peanuts? Will it affect the shelf life of this? And whether I used roasted or unroasted peanuts, should this always be refrigerated, or can we just keep this at room temperature?
Okay, so the two questions you asked are good ones, but they don't relate to the peanuts being unroasted. So first off, can you use unroasted peanuts? Yes, you can. Your flavor will not be nearly as good. Peanut butter is generally made with roasted peanuts, so you're going to want to actually have them roasted. If you buy unroasted, then roast them yourself at home in an oven, probably 350 degrees for 10 minutes or 12 minutes until they're golden brown. You do not want to make peanut butter with unroasted nuts. It's not going to taste good. Now, it does not affect the shelf life if they're unroasted or roasted. You do not have to buy salted, because in my recipe, I use roasted and salted. If you're worried about the salt, feel free to use roasted, but not salted or lightly salted. That's totally up to you. And then with regards to refrigeration, you can keep peanut butter out shelf stable. Like, it's totally fine. And you can scoop it, it's scoopable and all those sorts of things. For longer lasting freshness, we keep it in the fridge. So it depends. Like, if you're using it every day for sandwiches or if it's your snack with apples or whatever it is, leave it at room temperature if you're going to go through it quite quickly. Otherwise, I keep it in the fridge. You will often have to soften it after it's been in the fridge.
Mm-hmm. Would you say that's the same with store-bought natural peanut butter?
Yeah, the natural one you're not supposed to put in the fridge, right? It gets really hard.
No, a natural peanut butter you actually are supposed to keep in the fridge because it can go bad faster.
Sorry. Yeah, it's the skippy one. It's the cheapy.
It's the stuff that's emulsified with that sugar and the extra oil.
The kind of store-bought kind of generic
conventional
ones.
Peanut butters.
Conventional peanut butter, yeah, that you're not supposed to put in the fridge because they get really hard.
This is so crazy. I just recently looked at the label of a Skippy peanut butter jar, because I buy the natural one from Trader Joe's. It's roasted peanuts, salt, water. That's what's in it. And the Skippy one is made with powdered sugar. Did you know that?
Yes.
My mind was blown. I was like, no wonder people are addicted to it. It's sugar and powdered sugar. Great. So our next question is all about appetizers. So the question is, what baked appetizers can be made ahead of time and still taste fresh? And then a follow-up question is, what are some baked appetizers that travel well?
Well, I think those sort of seem to me like a similar question. So I'll sort of answer them kind of together. Well, you can definitely, I sort of always think about these hand pies that Gemma and I made on Bigger Bolder Baking a few years ago. We have a chorizo hand pie. We have a mushroom and herb hand pie. It's really good. They're lovely. There's a little bit of effort involved, so they feel a little special. They're handheld. You can make them hours in advance. They're really great room temperature. You can assemble them and put them in your fridge and then bake them right before people come if you're not traveling with them, if you want them warm. There's also a mushroom galette that's on the website that's also wonderful, and that can be served room temperature. I think it's ultimately like any kind of a tart, a quiche. A quiche is lovely at room temperature, so you can make that in advance and then travel with it, or have it on your table. And a quiche you can also reheats really well. So you can bake it fully, put it in your fridge, and then just warm it up for a little while. So those would be sort of appetizers. We don't have a mini quiche recipe on the website as far as I know.
No, we don't.
But you could take that quiche recipe and just do that in mini muffin tins. I couldn't tell you exactly what the bake time would be. It would be a lot less than a full-size quiche. But if you wanted bite-sized ones, you could do that. For sure, with that whole recipe, we've got savory Pop-Tarts, any of these like sort of savory baked goods that are just handheld, that are nice and substantial. They all travel well. They're all pretty sturdy. They can all be
savory too.
Yeah.
They definitely have a savory, salty kick.
Yeah, mini spanakoppitas.
Yeah, those are nice. And then for instance, for spanakopita and the tarts that you were talking about, use frozen phyllo pastry or use frozen puff pastry. For a lot of those recipes, just make your life easier.
We're going to talk a little bit about extracts for these questions. The first question is about homemade vanilla bean extract. And the question is from Sharon, how many times can you refill the alcohol using the same vanilla beans? And what is the ratio of number of beans to ounces of alcohol?
So that's a great question, Sharon. And I'm going to give you kind of a vague answer, but it does make sense. So everyone's container is different. The amount of vanilla beans you have are different. The more vanilla beans you use in like the smaller amount of liquid, the more concentrated it'll be. So I would say there's not really a formula of per ounce, but I will tell you, make your vanilla extract. And for those of you who've never made their own vanilla extract or are hearing for the first time that you can, it's vanilla bean pods and vodka. Or a clear alcohol, usually vodka because it doesn't have a flavor. Get a jar, the smaller, that means you can use like less vanilla pods, and just fill it to the top with vodka. You let it sit for 5 weeks. You give it a little bit of a turn every now and again, every few days. Make sure that it's just kind of, to give it a bit of a shake up. And you'll see the extract start to form and get darker and darker. When you start to use through your extract, top it up with vodka to make sure that the pods are always immersed in the vodka and covered. When you start to see over time, you're talking months, that you fill it or use it, you fill it up, and you use it and you fill it up, that the liquor, that the extract is becoming clearer and lighter in color, that you're getting to the end of your pods. It means that they're kind of almost spent. You've got probably as much as you can get out of them. I will tell you though that I've had homemade extracts and it could be a year or 2 years and the vanilla is still good in it. And then after you use the pod, if you feel like the pod is really spent and you can't use it anymore, make sure to scrape out the seeds, use them in a recipe like a creme patisserie or a custard or an ice cream, even in a cookie or something like that. And then you can dry out the pods. You can grind them up, put them in sugar. You can anything like that. You can get so much mileage out of a vanilla pod. But generally, when you start to see your extracts get fainter and fainter in color, it means you're kind of probably towards the end of your life and you might want to either add new pods in there or start over.
Great. I did not know you could make your own vanilla bean extract. That's so cool.
Yeah.
The next question is, will the alcohol get baked off to make sure the recipe is suitable for kids to consume?
Always. That's just a flat yes. Don't worry about that. Every recipe we have is a teaspoon of vanilla extract. I mean, at the most, it's going to be a tablespoon. Do not worry about that. Alcohol bakes off.
Okay.
You will not taste it and it will not affect you.
And it's just the tiniest amount because you imagine it's a teaspoon to a tablespoon over, many, many servings.
Right. It's not like that wine pie where the alcohol did not bake off. We all stumbled out of here. No, just kidding. Is there a difference in taste/quality if I use glycerin? Does glycerin have the same shelf-stable duration as vodka?
Glycerin is an inverted sugar, and it is a non-alcoholic substitute for making homemade extracts. For those of you who don't know, it's a popular ingredient in Europe. You don't see it as much here in the US. You can get it here, and some experienced bakers use it. It is a non-alcoholic substitute given. It will just take longer for it to flavor. And you asked, what kind of shelf life does it have? It's sugar. It's inverted sugar. It will last forever.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So if you're looking for a non-alcoholic option, that's a good one.
That's I didn't know that.
You can also make a sugar syrup and keep it in your fridge. You'll have to keep that in your fridge though. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching on YouTube. Thank you for listening to wherever you listen to podcasts. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and let your friends know about Need to Know. And we will see you back here again really soon. Thank you so much. From HRN and the Bold Baking Network, you are watching the Need to Know Baking Entertainment Podcast.